We lovingly dub this IRL Esports. Now, one of the goals of the show is to feature different personalities in the esports scene, and this time we've got someone who might be the person most in the know in esports.
Yes, nice.
I know it'll probably make him blush because I don't care. Anyway, huge welcome to ESPN esports writer Jacob Wolf to the program. Welcome, Jacob.
Yes,
Thank you for having me.
Huzzah! I asked for a star wipe and I only got a thing, but that's okay.
Disappointing.
Okay, sorry. We'll do that next time, Jacob. My apologies. Profound apologies.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Seriously appreciate it. And really excited to chat.
I know, man. I will. So here's first question. For those who don't know you, tell us who you are, why you're contextually important to the esports scene, and you don't have to think that, but I do. So there you go.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a reporter at ESPN who reports on primarily esports. I've been at ESPN for 2 years. Before that, I was at Dot Esports, formerly the Daily Dot. So I currently live in Hartford, Connecticut. I travel a significant amount. I talk to a lot of people in esports. I guess the proper sports term would be an insider. So I talk to ownership, players, league people, all over the place. So I primarily focus, I would say, right now on League of Legends and Overwatch.
Gotcha. And I will say, from my own perspective, I think in a very respectful way, muckraker, and I love you for it. It's awesome.
Take it easy.
Shut up. It's fine. I'm fangirling, and I don't care. Actually, you mentioned Overwatch League, of course, and that's top of mind for a variety of reasons. Obviously, they just wrapped stage 1 of the tournament, though there are 4 stages, plus playoffs, plus grand finals, and an all-star weekend to come. We're already on the speculation on what will be happening in the league for Season 2. And since you obviously just recently, literally moments ago, or I guess it would be a day ago, 2 days ago, broke the story on the potential buy-in. We're talking $35 to $60 million. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that would mean for potential owners looking to get into the league? Any pitfalls that might come with that high of an asking price?
Yeah,
just give us your understanding of what's about to happen here.
So I think for American investors, it's a pretty easy buy. I mean, many of them have billions of dollars that they're willing to spend at their disposal. Some of them run funds that buy these things. So it's not only just their money, it's other people's money that are invested with them. So I think for American investors, it's not a huge deal considering the Overwatch League is ahead of revenue schedule, which was another thing that I wrote in that column. Yeah. I think for European and Asian investors, it's a much harder sell because they invest very differently than American investors, and they require a lot more proof of. And really, just generally, they tend to be harder to sell on these types of things. Franchising is not as big of a deal in Europe and in China and Korea as it is here domestically in the U.S. So it's a very different outlook. And so I think American investors, they'll have several people who are lined up to be a part of the league. But in terms of international, I think there will be a little bit of a struggle.
Interesting.
That's tough.
And that's going to be coming up soon here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, weren't they on their, what was that little tour? I had seen an earlier
Roadshow. Yeah,
Roadshow. That's the word. Roadshow. So you're anticipating some moves happening here or some announcements here, not terribly long, correct?
Well, so the roadshows last year also started in February and March. If I believe right, it started at Sloan Sports and Analytics Conference, which will happen next week in Boston at MIT. And the first person that they got to buy in this last year was Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots. And so they will again go on the show where Nate Nansers previously told me, I think he was gold on Delta and platinum on American, I believe, or platinum on United. He said that he just had a ton of, I interviewed him, He told me he had a ton of airline miles from all of this traveling. So they will be doing that again. They'll be bringing people out to come see the Overwatch League in person in Los Angeles at their nice, fancy new studio. And they will, so the roadshow will begin. And I don't know how forthcoming announcements will be around that time. I think that it will take a little bit to get through all the agreements like it did last time. But I suspect we'll start hearing of verbal agreements of participation in the league within the next month or two.
Sure. So there is actually a great question in chat I just want to jump on is if worst comes to pass and they can't find investors outside, do you think that the North America could support the Overwatch League on its own?
Very much could see that North American investors buy spots internationally and then run those teams the same way the London Spitfire and the Seoul Dynasty are done, which are both American-based companies. anticipate that for some of them. I think that even some of the other people I mentioned in that column, like Shad Khan of the Jaguars, who has previously said he's interested in esports, if he's at the table for Overwatch League and he does want to do that, don't expect him to be buying it in Jacksonville, because there's already a Florida team that has almost all the Florida region, so including Jacksonville. So I don't anticipate him to be there if that's where he buys. I would anticipate American investors to be bought in Europe and Asia as well.
It's super interesting because I'll be interested in the next year to see how many international teams are actually owned internationally. It's going to be a crazy.
I'm also going to
ratio.
be. I was going to say one of the things. So obviously you and Rachel over at ESPN do co-host a podcast every week, and you guys had it's really interesting to hear your take on some of this stuff, especially who you see in those VIP boxes over at the Blizzard Arena, and see what it is that they're talking about, and that kind of insider intrigue. So I'm excited to hear more about that and how that roadshow ends up going. But speaking of Overwatch, I'm still on it. I don't know. The segue was not great to begin with, and I'll cop to that. But let's talk about roster shuffles. We've already seen some high-level moves being announced. And of course, they can't start playing until February 21st. Is that correct, Jacob?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. Correct. So who are the players that we should be looking out for? And at the same time, who are those teams that are going to come out on top because of these new signings? Obviously, Gregory is my favorite for various reasons.
Yeah, sure.
But my curiosity is, who are you looking at? Who are your standouts? Who are you excited to see join what team and how?
Very excited to see Rascal and Fisher and their moves to the Los Angeles Gladiators and the Dallas Fuel, respectively. I think that Dallas has a lot of issues that are underlying in their team. I think that Rascal is a much better DPS than most of their roster. They're also adding AKM. So Dallas gets 2 DPS upgrades and potentially moves around some other pieces to play flex on certain other tank roles. I think Dallas should look better in Stage 2. I actually think that the teams that I think that New York is making one change, if I remember right, and London's not making any besides getting rid of players, and I still expect both of those to be some of the best teams in the league. I think some of the teams, if you look at like the Florida Mayhem and the Shanghai Dragons, which obviously made a lot of changes respectively, can't get any worse, so we might as well try something different, right?
Fair point.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I guess I get that. I also think
they're gonna try to get three Korean players to learn Mandarin, and that does not sound like an easy thing to do. Yeah,
it's tough. Well, you see it in any sport that you need time to get with your team and play together and learn from each other, and that language barrier is going to be something that's going to affect them because that league, it's kicking off fast. It's not like they have a year to practice.
I know.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
You go for it.
So I'm very curious as a guy who works across the esports scene, covering multiple games and leagues. What has been the biggest challenge for you reporting on multiple disciplines? And conversely, what are some opportunities the scene has in terms of carving out more fans potentially for more traditional sports?
Yeah, this is more of an overarching question there, Jacob, in terms of esports all up.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is the biggest challenge I incur is setting priority, and there's so many games to cover. I often say that covering one esport is like covering a traditional sport. So I would look at myself as covering football and basketball if we were making comparisons right now. And that means I don't get to cover baseball and soccer. And I love a lot of the other games I don't get to report on, like Counter-Strike Global Offensive is a big passion of mine that I don't get to touch nearly as much. And that's just from a time perspective, I guess. There's only one of me. So I think that there's an opportunity there for other people in journalism and specifically in esports journalism to report on those topics and report on other games, because they certainly do need people that do investigative journalism and breaking news and stuff like that. The industry is in a very odd position right now when it comes to media. So, and then also in terms of traditional sports, I think that the biggest thing that I've encountered is it's much less about the game and it's much more about the people. And I've heard that from a lot of other people like TBS and others that broadcast to the television. It's less about them playing Counter-Strike as much as it is about the people that they are. Because just like athletes, they have these very incredible and niche stories that whether it be the case of one of the players on Quantum Bellator Fire at the CSGO major, he had to play in an internet cafe for like a week for them to qualify for the tournament.
That's
and
awesome.
basically sleep out of the internet cafe. Yeah, exactly. So like those types of stories, I think resonate with people who don't quite understand esports as much, but can understand the human aspect of it.
That's a really good point.
Exactly, and that's one thing that, to your point, all sports share. But let me ask this: speaking of a guy who is very indoctrinated in the stories, who knows the things, who knows the people, the places, it's not hard to see that your bylines, often breaking news, essential to esports fans like myself, and of course players alike. Will we ever see a Jacob Wolf, My Life in the Top Lane, and esports tell-all from the journalist that knows all books someday?
Ooh, a book?
I've been very interested in writing a book in the future. I don't think I'm at that point yet, and I don't think I will be for several years. I do have an agent, and he does know literary agents, so that opportunity, I think, was there one day. It's definitely a goal. I think that the next step for me is writing more long-form investigative stuff, which hopefully you'll see more of soon.
Ooh, all right.
That was I feel like
nice
we should have
little
had,
plug.
I was going to say, Jacob, I feel like we should have had a ding when you did that in your hello. Excellent. Well, that is fantastic. Speaking of coming soon, where can people find you and your work? Where can we keep tabs on all that is Jacob Wolf?
Yeah, so my Twitter is @JacobInWolf, and then you can find all my bylines on www.espn.com/esports.
Very
Cool,
nice.
man. Well,
Jacob.
yeah, we'll be very excited for
Yeah,
those.
thank you. It was a genuine pleasure, man. Really appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you enjoy that
appreciate
Austin
it. Thank
sun
you.
and taco scene.
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. Take good care. God, all I want queso.
Thanks,
That's
Jacob.
all I want queso. It's all I want queso. All I want is. Oh my God.
I don't care. It's fine.
So that
We're
was the
those
cheesiest
people,
thing
and I
you've
don't.
done all day.
Cheesiest thing.
Boom.
Oh.
We are off
Oh!
the rails. Lennox isn't here today.
I was gonna say, Jacob and his professionalism got nothing on our dad jokes. Here we go.